DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey there folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to have a show with Dr. Bob Rowland, and we're going to talk about some unbelievable things that are happening through genetics in the swine industry that basically are eradicating diseases. Stay tuned.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America, a place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're lucky to catch someone that's pretty busy, that's doing so much research for veterinary medicine in the swine world and beef world and pretty much anything you have a virus.
Anywhere there's a virus, yes.
Is Dr. Bob Rowland. He is a professor here of virology in the Department of Diagnostic Medicine and Pathology at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Dan.
It's times are changing, but some of the things stay the same. And when we think about some of the old problems or disease pressure problems we have, putting new technology is important, but first we got to kind of identify the problems, right?
Absolutely, and as production changes, so do the problems. And so for the past 25 years, I've been working on really the major one problem in the swine industry, and that's a porcine reproductive and respiratory syndrome virus that we know as PRRS virus.
Yep.
This has been a huge drag on the pig economy, costing producers probably about $12 billion in losses over the last 25 years.
Goodness gracious, that's not something that we think about a lot. We do think about that, but just the general pressure that we have on a day-to-day basis of keeping disease out of these pig barns.
Absolutely, and the disease problems change. 50 years ago, viruses came in and you could tell they were there. They caused clinical signs and they killed pigs. Nowadays, the virus infection problems are much more subtle, much more chronic, and so oftentimes they don't become detected until they become a problem.
And then when they become a problem,
game over.
It can be
yes.
a really, really, issue. So what are some of the issues that you are seeing, or besides PRRS, that we're dealing with on a frequent basis here within our swine herds?
Well, I think we look at some of the global threats. We live in a global economy. Right now in China, African swine fever is taken off in China, and we think to ourselves, well, we don't think if it will come to the United States, we kind of think when it will be here.
And how are some of those diseases transmitted, though? I mean, what are some of the ways that they could be? Because I agree with you. I think a lot of these diseases, it's more of a matter of when, not a matter of if. What are some of the things that concern you as far as the transmission or maybe bringing it over?
I don't think too much concerns me because a lot of this is just part of our normal interaction with countries, normal trade. And I think it's sort of one of the unintended consequences of being a global partner.
You bet. So when we're sitting there thinking about global trade, we're thinking about modern production, what you're working on are some solutions for these common issues that will help us continue to have open trade.
Absolutely. For some infections, we have good vaccines. For others, we don't. In which case, then we have to look for alternative solutions, and that's where the genetic editing of pigs comes in.
Cool. Well, let's take a break. We're going to go to commercial, folks. When we come back, I'm going to discuss with Dr. Rowland some of the new technology that we're seeing in the swine industry pertaining to virology and health. You're watching DocTalk. We'll see you after these messages. Hey folks, Dr. Dan from DocTalk here. Thanks for joining me for our Cattle First tip today, sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. And we're talking about injection sites. And injection sites, all of our injections go in the neck. Here's a picture of the injection site triangle that you can see is underneath the nuchal ligament, above the vertebral column, and in front of the point of the shoulder. This injection site triangle is where we will put all of our injections for cattle. Now, if we're going to do 2 injections in that area, we put about a hand's width apart between the 2 injections. Nothing goes in the top butt, nothing in the round, nothing over the ribs. Now, if you're going to do a sub-Q injection, you go in at a 45-degree angle with a 5/8 inch or 1/2 inch needle. If you're going to do an intramuscular injection, you go in perpendicular to the calf with an 1 to 1.5 inch length needle. This is your Cattle First tip.
It must be an inherited trait because I have never wanted to do anything other than be in the cattle business. And it's interesting as I have grandchildren now, little bitty ones. All they want to do is go to the barn, swing a rope, and be a cowboy. It's something. It's a lifestyle that we have, the way we make a living, obviously. But it's really more than that. It gives us the opportunity as a family to be able to work together and enjoy each other's company and make a living at the same time. We've been using Triangle for years, and the reason we do it's been safe and effective, and we're going to continue to do that. We'll put the cows in the chute twice a year, spring and fall. 100% of our cattle get vaccinated with Triangle.
You know just how costly BRD can be, but did you know that bacteria like Mannheimia and Pasteurella can cause BRD? That's why veterinarians and cattle raisers focus on preventing pasteurellosis with a quality vaccine like Pulmogard PHM1. It's ready to use, highly syringeable, and provides comprehensive protection with a single dose. For pasteurellosis protection that's truly the head of the class, ask your veterinarian about Pulmogard PHM1.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Bob Rowland, where we work at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. Dr. Rowland is a world-renowned virologist in swine medicine, and we're very fortunate to have him at Kansas State University. I've known him for many years before Kansas State, and my dad, John Thompson, you know, from our South Dakota State connection. But glad to have you here, glad to work with you. Let's talk a little bit about the technology we have today that's available to combat diseases.
When we look at the new science that we're doing in livestock, we talk about new technologies. And the one thing I always tell producers is that everything you see in modern production comes from a discovery, comes from technology. And it's not just the technology that we do, the techniques, but it's also the nature of the collaborations we make. Most of what we do is interdisciplinary. And so the person that I work with at the University of Missouri is Randy Prather. He's one of the premier geneticists in the United States. And actually, he called me up one day and said, hey, look, I've got these pigs that don't have the PRRS virus receptor. Do you want to check them out? And after I got my, after I came back to consciousness, I basically said, you bet. And I knew then that that would be a change in my career. In fact, a lot of the new milestones that I've been able to achieve are really the result of this collaboration. So it's just not the power of not the power of technology, but it's also the power of collaboration, you know, between universities, between disciplines, and I think you know that.
You bet. Well, and our ability to communicate, you know, and the way that the internet has allowed us to, but it still gets down to him having the capabilities of doing the genetics, and you having the ability to study the disease pattern and the virus.
Absolutely. He makes the pigs and we evaluate them.
Yep.
We put them to the test. And the technology we're talking about is CRISPR. And everybody's heard of CRISPR. We use it in human medicine. We're using it to cure cancer and other genetic diseases. And so, you know, if it's something that's good enough for people, I bet you it's probably good enough for pigs. and so the technology we're looking at is really knocking out the pig receptor, or the virus receptor, and that's inside the pig. And you can imagine that a virus infects a cell, and that cell is like your house. And in order for that virus to get in the house, it's got to open the door. Basically what Randy does is he takes off the doorknob, and so the virus can't get in. And so that way the pig is completely protected.
So with the genetic modification through the CRISPR, what he's basically is, you know, I think viruses have to live within the cells.
They got to be inside the cell, yes.
And so what we're doing is doing something that doesn't allow those viruses to get in.
Absolutely. We're just basically chopping the doorknob off the door so they can't get in.
And then what do the viruses do from there? Go find another door?
They do nothing. They just go away. You know, it's the end of a disease. And I think that's the most remarkable thing is that, you know, being in this business for 25 years and battling a disease that I thought would be generational. I thought it would be, you know, our kids who would eventually solve it. To actually see a solution that prevents disease is really, in many respects, it's kind of ended my career. I'm kind of looking for other things to do.
Well, I'm sure we'll be plenty busy. Let's take a break. Folks, Dr. Bob Rowland, Professor of Virology here at Kansas State University. More after these messages.
Did you know long-range planning through the checkoff can help keep your business profitable? To successfully pass on cattle operations from one generation to the next, it's important to promote beef and keep farms and ranches profitable. Your beef checkoff helps do that.
I'm Tom Perrier. Our ranch is called Dale Banks Angus. Dale Banks is not a person, but it's a place. This ranch was started by my great-grandfather. He came from northwest England, and his farm there was called Dale Banks, and so he called his ranch here in the Flint Hills Dale Banks. The beef checkoff today has fulfilled a lot of needs that our industry had over the years. We were very involved in trying to get the beef checkoff passed back in the 70s and early 80s because we saw the need then, and the beef checkoff, I think, has fulfilled a lot of those needs.
I think some of the biggest bonuses that we've gotten from the beef checkoff in the last 20 years have been twofold, both in the research phase of the industry, one being the Beef Quality Assurance Program that showed us just how much money we could capture by simply doing things like moving the injection sites from the hip and rump of the animal up to the neck, where we had less high-valued cuts. That drove millions of dollars into our industry. The other thing that our beef industry did about 15 years ago was embark on new product development, things like the flat iron steak and things that used to get ground into hamburger and other low-valued cuts today are sold for a premium, and that too, just like the Beef Quality Assurance Program, has driven huge dollars into our industry that we all get to share.
Matt's the primary driver behind the operation right now, and he's the 6th generation, and his children will be the 7th generation.
I hope our kids are better at telling our beef industry's story. I think the last several years the Beef Checkoff has shown us how to do that better. They've given us some tools to do that. So we need to do a better job of telling the wonderful story that we have, and I hope our kids can continue to do that.
You spent countless hours building a strong operation. But when it comes to trichomoniasis, the odds are stacked against you. It takes just one infected bull to take down the whole herd. Damage could include open cows, lost pregnancies, and lost profits. The good news is, with TrichGuard, a herd doesn't have to feel like a house of cards.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Boehringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. We're here with Dr. Bob Rowland, who's a professor of virology here at Kansas State University, that through his collaboration with the University of Missouri and Randy Prather has learned how we can genetically modify pigs and study how that those pigs then have immunity or protection against the virus.
Absolutely. In fact, what we're doing is we're eliminating disease. And people always ask me about the genetic modification part, and in the case of CRISPR, you just go in and with a little pair of molecular scissors, you just chop out a little piece of the genome, stitch it back together, and you eliminate that receptor. One of the issues we have right now is, well, what do we do next? We know we can cure disease. And Randy has prepared a list of viruses, pig viruses, and we're just going down that list. And we've shown that we can make pigs resistant to porcine reproductive and respiratory syndrome virus. We just finished a study at using transmissible gastroenteritis virus. So we're just going down that list.
Yeah, that's the old TGE.
Right, that's been around a while.
Yeah.
You know, and so we know that we can eliminate disease. But then some of the issues that come down the line is that, well, these things that we're eliminating, maybe they have other functions. You know, so maybe we should be testing these pigs in a production setting to see how well they perform, you know.
Right.
But some of the other issues are going to be regulatory. We're going to have to decide how we integrate these into production and make sure that whatever modification that's made is safe. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be the consumer is going to decide. I've done my part. Randy and I have done our part. We've made the pigs healthy.
Yep. Well, I think that, people also, the way I kind of look at it to explain is cows don't get PRRS.
Yeah, they don't.
Right?
Yeah, and there's a reason.
And there's a reason, genetically or
Right.
something like that. And basically, you're probably, in a nutshell, they don't have the receptor, they don't have the ability to get sick from that disease, and you're just changing the pig to what, similar a cow or something where an animal that doesn't get PRRS anymore.
Well, another way to look at it, I think if we stuck around long enough, during the next couple of 100,000 years, we'd probably find a pig that was naturally resistant to PRRS.
Right.
Basically what we do is we just kind of speed up Mother Nature.
Yeah. Well, and you're still using Mother Nature.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So for the improvement. And I thought that was important too. You talked about policy. And I think that, if you had something to tell people, that are thinking about genetically, policy is probably going to be one of our bigger hurdles in advancing this type of technology, right?
Absolutely. And the other thing that I think we need to focus on is animal welfare. When we make these pigs and we make them healthy, we block the introduction of disease, that's really the first step to improving the overall welfare of animals. And one thing I always say is if you have a healthy pig, you're going to have healthy pork.
You bet.
Yeah.
Well, we've done the studies at McDonald's with the consumer.
Yes.
And they can't define animal welfare, but they think that what did come out of our surveys was a safe food product comes from a healthy animal.
Absolutely.
And a healthy animal is one that had good animal welfare.
Absolutely, and that begins with an animal that's free of disease.
There we go.
Yeah.
Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to come back with a wrap-up with Dr. Bob Rowland here at Kansas State.
In the springtime, cattlemen need to be thinking of preventing important diseases like pink eye. Pink eye prevention includes management factors like good fly control, pasture management, along with a good vaccination program. Eyesight from AgriLabs has broad efficacy coverage as its origin from 8 different field isolates of Moraxella bovis. It is safe, smooth, highly syringeable, safe with young calves and pregnant cows, and provides superior protection against pink eye.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. I'm here with Dr. Bob Rowland, and Dr. Bob, we talk about eradicating diseases through genetics. Now we're maybe we've always heard, when brucellosis was eradicated,
right?
Oh, we won't need a vet. When we went from horses to cars,
yep.
Oh, we're not going to need a veterinarian anymore because we don't need to doctor the horses. And so now, we went through pseudorabies, we've gone through brucellosis, and now you're eradicating diseases genetically. We don't need vaccines, maybe no vets.
Well, I think we're always going to need vets. I think as production changes, and you know that production is a moving target. As soon as we see new technology, we see new production methods, and guess what? That creates new ecological niches for new viruses and bacteria. So I doubt our jobs will go away any time soon. But I think we're kind of learning how to approach these problems, and we need to be much more sophisticated. And the other thing is we look at the economics, and that's probably the bottom line for us, is the economics of the diseases. But when you look at third world countries, other countries throughout the world who depend on the same products for protein, for subsistence, then we can see the real value of our efforts.
Absolutely. You and I both work with global entities, whether it's OIE or
right.
that, and 75 of our member countries, of the 175 member countries, are third world or developing nations. And
yes,
we sit here, we should be so thankful for the problems we have, because the other countries, you just want to eat.
And the thing is, they're the same diseases.
Yeah.
These are global diseases. The bugaboos that we have for U.S. production are the same bugaboos that the backyard farmer in Africa is faced with. So I think that's probably going to be the bigger opportunity is to feed a world, but also to go to where people produce pigs and make them healthy also.
Yeah, and I start to think about the ability to use CRISPR for food safety and things that maybe aren't just diseases in animals, but
absolutely.
Diseases that animals could transmit to humans.
Absolutely. I think, I always say that this technology, it's just not for pigs. You're going to see it in chickens, cows. You're going to see it throughout the ag industry. It really is the future. And I think for us, it's just how we're going to greet it, or how we're going to make sure that it has value to us.
You bet.
Yeah.
Well, you're a busy man, doing a lot of great work, and we're very thankful to have you here at Kansas State University.
Well, thank you, Dan. I'm glad to be here.
And we're thankful that you're in the food animal industry. Folks, Dr. Bob Rowland, thanks for watching DocTalk today. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. And if you want to find out more about what we do on DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here at Kansas State University with Dr. Bob Rowland. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance, from AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com.
DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.